Hi guys, my name is Ibreez and I currently work as a doctor in the NHS. Thanks for joining us on yet another lesson in our beginner's guide to PLAB. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how you can plan and prepare for PLAB 1. If this is the first time you're checking out our channel, welcome. Basically what we do is we run a website that's totally free known as roadtok.com, and it will explain the ins and outs about everything related to the United Kingdom and what it takes for you to work as a doctor in the NHS. So if you've not already, please stalk us on all of our social media. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's first talk a little bit about the planning, and then we can get into the preparing. We've talked a little bit in the last few lessons about how you should plan for it, but let's put together a generalized timeline. Now, as you know, there is a 2-year validity for your IELTS OET and for your PLAB 1 and your PLAB 2. So really, to be smart and fiscally smart, the main thing, you want to target to complete all of these exams within 2 years so that you don't take anything again. If you are in your first year of medical college, guys, concentrate on medical school. I would really start thinking about this route and when to start preparing for it, maybe in your final year towards your completion of your final medical exam. And really at that time, all I would think about is just studying for IELTS or OET. So pick which one you want to do. You know, if you're unsure which one's the right one for you, take a couple of mock tests for IELTS, take a couple of mock tests for OET, see which one you feel is more doable for you. Start preparing. Preparing how? Just study. We've got some articles and some videos that we've linked that discuss it further, but really guys, the most important thing that you need to think about is how well you can prepare in the time that you give yourself. Not everyone needs 2 to 3 months. We say on average spend about 2 to 3 months to prepare. Some people may need less time, some people may need more time. It's up to you and how you feel you'll be ready. So if you're a final year medical student, you can start studying, but I wouldn't think to actually book the exam until perhaps you've finished your final medical school exams itself, or you've passed whatever's the final exams, just because it's really important for you to first concentrate on passing your medical degree, because without that, you can't do anything when it comes to PLAB. So after you've done that, you can then think about PLAB 1, and we recommend, of course, trying to take it during your internship itself, because not only are you kind of doing the stuff that you need for PLAB during that time, but it'll help you stay on track. All right, so there are 8 steps that I would like you all to take into consideration for your preparation for PLAB 1. Those 8 steps. Step number 1, what you should do is, if you have Facebook or any form of social media where you can join a bunch of PLAB prep groups, do it. They are a godsend because you have a bunch of people who are also preparing for the exam, and y'all can look at a bunch of questions together and review, and it'll help you understand what you need to know and how to do it. The second step is, of course, getting the appropriate material. There's a ton of question banks out there that you can look through. I think the most common one that everyone talks about is the 1700s. Download them, they're nice and free. Other ones are paid. And then, of course, as a point of reference, always look at the Oxford Handbook of Clinical Medicine, which we've also linked, got y'all covered, because when in doubt, I mean, you can't assume that every question bank has all of the appropriate explanations. If you need something explained further, the Oxford Handbook should be your go-to reference, all right? The third step is mark out how many questions you want to be covering every day, all right? Set yourself a goal. If you're thinking, well, I have about 3 months until this exam and I have 2,000 questions that I want to go through, you know, if you tell yourself, I'm only going to do 10 questions a day, well, that's not going to really work out for you, is it? Put together a doable goal of numbers, and I would at least recommend making it such that you can revise your questions at least twice. At least. Okay? Within that vein, for step number 4, you should mark all the questions that you find tricky or ones that you think you need to revise a little bit more, because it'll make it really easy for you when you have to come back the second time around and see which ones were the ones that were stopping you up a little. Oh, you marked them, so you knew which ones you have to go and look at again. And then, of course, you can look at your handy-dandy Oxford Handbook if you need to understand it a little bit further. It's also really important in step number 5 to get rest. You are going to be so stressed out about this exam because you're like, oh my god, what if I don't pass it? It only happens certain times of the year. But if you don't take rest, it doesn't mean anything. Get some sleep. Don't study all the time. Don't think, by osmosis, if you put the book underneath your pillow, you're just going to absorb all that knowledge. No, man. Take time out of the day to be like, all right, from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I'll study. And then from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I'll take a break and then maybe get back into the books again. Okay? Step number 6 is, again, I talked about it a little bit before, but we're going to talk about it in depth here, is know everything by referring to the Oxford Handbook. It's really important that you do double check everything that you read. Don't go into an exam with preconceived notions, because you can get kind of stopped up, especially because, let's say in your home country, when a person comes in with a certain condition, you treat it this way. And that's not wrong. That's the way the medicine is done in your country. But in the United Kingdom, it may be completely different. So it's always a good idea to have this as a point of reference and double check everything you're learning along the way. Make sure you aren't making any mistakes. If anyone ever tells you, no, the answer is this, but the Oxford Handbook or any other clinical guidance from the United Kingdom states otherwise, that is the correct answer. Do not second guess yourself or think, well, that person told me. No. Whatever's written in those points of reference is what you need to know. Step number 7, do as many mock exams as you can. I think a lot of the question banks come with mock exams. If they don't, you could probably buy or find some in a lot of different groups or different websites. But practicing not only your time management skills, but of course how well you do in the mocks, will give you a good idea of how you need to adjust your studying pattern. Because if you just go through question banks or you're just studying all day without actually practicing, you don't want the exam day to be the day that you check to make sure you know how to do everything in the amount of time you're given for the exam. It's no good. You need to make sure from the get-go that you know what's up, and this is the perfect way for you to time yourself, especially if you can time yourself in a fake exam setting. And then step number 8, keep reviewing the points that you mark. I think a lot of times, I know at least for me, when you have a tricky thing, you look at it and you're like, I don't want to learn this, I don't understand this, I just forget it, it won't come in the exam. And fingers crossed, hope it doesn't come in the exam. But if it's something that's really important, it's really a good idea to mark it, come back to it, try and understand it. I'm not saying necessarily to devote all of your preparation time to reviewing questions that you found difficult, but at least take a good chunk of time to review those questions really well, so that when you're in your second or third revision of whatever question bank you've chosen, you know those topics well enough that you can at least think about getting a correct answer in the exam. So those are the steps for your preparation process. Like I said, don't think that you have to do it in 2 to 3 months. It can be more, it can be less. It's about you, but don't rush it. If you can, of course, find other groups, other people around you that you can sit and study with, that will, of course, help you in preparing and, of course, in revising. The exam day itself will be a very stressful thing anyway, because it's an exam. And even though we're doctors, we've done 1 trillion exams every step of the way. An exam is always going to be a stressful thing. So, of course, approach it with poise and know that you know the material because you've been studying so well for it up until now. Nothing should be stressing you out at all when it comes to the exam, because it's something that you know medicine, you've done so much already, you've gotten your medical degree, you've got it, you know what you have to do. It's just about being confident within yourself when you actually show up for the exam. So take it in that sense, and fingers crossed you'll pass it. If you don't pass it, you'll know how to learn from those mistakes, because you'll know what you've done wrong the first time. Maybe you didn't revise enough, maybe you didn't mark the questions that you didn't understand, maybe you didn't think about those points of reference. Either which way, we have articles covering all of this. We have an article covering how to prepare for PLAB 1, where we talk about more of these steps in depth, and we give you a lot of links to resources that you may find helpful. And on top of that, we have an article about what to do if you fail PLAB 1, which I hope will happen to no one watching this video, but it is still something that you should keep into consideration so that you know what to do if that were to happen. Hope all that made sense, guys, and you feel well prepared and ready to know how to approach PLAB 1. Now let's move on to our next lesson when we talk about how to plan and prepare for PLAB 2.